Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point. And as promised in my last video, I am back with a recap of what Mr. Jamal Bryant had to say. So if you didn't catch my last video, I was catching you guys up to speed who may not know about what led up to Monique Samuel's attack against Giselle in regards to Jamal and her bringing receipts and exposing Giselle and exposing Jamal as having conjured up this storyline and about his promiscuity and having another baby and all that stuff. The link is above. You can go back and check that out. And so I was letting you guys know that Jamal said he was going live this evening. He didn't give a time, but he has gone live. And so I am going to give you guys the recap. Jamal asked that we share his video. And so I did that, and you can catch it in the link above. So let's just give you the cliff notes of what took place. But before I get started, I forgot to mention this in the last video, but I'm going to mention it in this video because once again, Jamal doesn't really acknowledge that him and Giselle are in a relationship, okay? He sort of like skirted around the issue, but we still don't know if they are actively dating, you know, leading towards marriage, or if this is just a friendship. And then also Jamal does a mass wedding at New Birth on the Sunday before Valentine's Day. They do like a mass wedding. Anybody that wants to get married, you know, they come in and they perform this really beautiful ceremony for them. And so it'll be interesting to see if him and Giselle ever participate in that ceremony. So let's just go ahead and get started here. He started out apologizing for the delay, you know, saying all the good things that he has been doing through New Birth to help the community. And he has been campaigning vigorously for Raphael Warnock, you know, who is running for a Senate seat in Georgia. And so there's 2 Senate seats that weren't decided during the November 3rd election. And there's a runoff on January 5th. And it's important for the Democrats to win both of those seats so that they can tie. So it'll be 50-50. Well, actually, there's 2 independent seats. But those 2 independent seats, I don't think really have a vote. But they need both of those seats to, I guess, leverage the field. And then that way, anytime the Republicans and the Democrats don't agree, then Kamala Harris will then be the deciding vote. And then if they lose either one of those seats, then it'll go to the Republican candidates and the Republicans will still have the majority. So he said he had been out campaigning because that election is very, very serious. He went on to say that, you know, he was also delayed because he was trying to honor Giselle's wishes, and Giselle had been asking and pleading with him to not respond. And, you know, I said in my last video, like, don't respond, just let Monique read everything in her binder. It's out there, and then be like, okay, next subject. So Giselle didn't want him to respond, but he says because of the momentum that the moment was gaining and how social media gets involved and people are, you know, passing judgment and coming up with their own opinions, that he felt that his silence would be considered agreement or consent, and that he was being silent because of what Monique was saying was true. And so he says that he's not doing the video to ask for an apology. He's not doing the video, you know, as a confessional. And he's not giving the video, you know, to give Monique consent to continue to badmouth him and say these things about him. And so he says that for 5 years since the Real Housewives of Potomac has been on, that, he's seen the good, he's seen the bad, and he's seen the ugly. Everything has just happened on this show, and he doesn't really want to be a part of it. And so he says he's not an advocate for reality TV and doesn't feel that it helps Black people, and it definitely doesn't empower Black women. And he says that a bone of contention between him and Giselle has been his disapproval of her being on the show. And so, guys, this might be why he won't really go wholeheartedly in trying to pursue this relationship with Giselle, because she wants to be on that show and he doesn't want her to be on the show. And let's be realistic, is it a good look for the pastor's wife or fiance or girlfriend to be on a reality TV show that is not about empowerment, that's not about uplifting the community, but they're out there catfighting and acting a fool? And so he goes on and says that, and he goes on to say that he did allow them to film a couple of scenes with him, just to appease Giselle, but then the way that they misjudged his character and dogged him out on the show, he would never ever appear on Real Housewives of Potomac again, nor will he be on the reunion special. And then he says that, the accusations of him abandoning his family and not participating in the photo shoot. There was a scene where they had scheduled this photo shoot and Jamal was supposed to be there. And then he called and said he couldn't because his flight was delayed. And so he goes on to explain that he was actually in Africa and he was trying to get back in time to do the photo shoot. And he had a layover in Germany, and there was like a 6-hour delay before he could get on his next flight to get home. And that he called the producers, he called, the executives, he talked to, I guess, Giselle, and that they chose to edit all of that out and make it look as though he stood his daughters up, at this photo shoot. And so he said that, he wanted to point out to people that, the show doesn't take place in real time, which we already know. But what I didn't know is that the show is like a year old. So he says that it was recorded, that this season was recorded a year ago. And he talks about how on the first day of school, he wasn't there, for the girls, and that is the reason why the girls seem so angry during the season and, kind of upset with him, was not because of actually them getting back together, him and Giselle getting back together, but because they were teenagers who were expecting their dad to honor the tradition of always being there on the first day of school, and that this was the first time in their lives that he wasn't able to be there. And he said that he had just moved to Atlanta, he had adjustments to make, and that, these are daddy's girls, and they've always had a great supportive relationship. And so he values that and he doesn't take that for granted. But of course, with social media, they have a way of editing and manipulating things and making it look a different way than what it is. And then he says that the next reason that he will never appear on Potomac is because of disparaging remarks. Then he addressed the disparaging remarks by Giselle's father. And he says that he was always taught to honor his elders, and so he would never disrespect Giselle's father. But he does admit that him and Giselle divorced over 10 years ago, and that he has never sat down with Giselle's father, to have a heart-to-heart talk with him about what went wrong in the relationship, how he treated Giselle, what led to the divorce. And so he kind of blames himself for not, manning up and doing that. And he says that was actually, on that episode, that was actually the first time he has seen Giselle's father in 10 years. So then he goes into the receipts, okay? He had a book with him. He had a binder just like had a binder, and he says that you can't bring receipts if he has the cash register. Okay, so he say he know everything that's going on. He was a part of what's going on, so who better to tell the story than him? And so he says that he dated a woman in New York, and that he's been single for 11 years and unfortunately it didn't work out. He says that he's currently not married, and when he met this woman, he wasn't married and he was not engaged to anybody. So therefore, people that are going around on blogs and vlogs and everything saying that he had a mistress, that is inaccurate information, because you can't have a mistress if you are single. Okay. And so he says that this woman who is a pastor, and he clarifies that, because remember I was telling you guys in the last video about the Sherelle lady who was thinking that the new pastor at New Birth is the woman he was having the affair with. So he clarifies that she is not the woman that he was alleged to have been having this affair with or in a relationship with. And he says that the woman, he never named her. I don't think he ever named her, but he says that she's never been to Atlanta. She's never been to New Birth, and that he has never been inside her home and she has never been to his home. He says if Monique is going to bring text messages as receipts, she needs to show all of the text messages. And so he says that he told the woman that she wasn't qualified, I guess, to be a pastor, and that Monique needs to show those text messages. He says that the woman asked to come to his installation and he told her no, Monique needs to show those text messages. He says that she complained because he wouldn't get her on, like make a connection with the Word Network, I guess, so she can have a show or something. And he told her no, he wasn't going to do that she wasn't qualified, to be on, didn't have what it took to be on the Word Network. And then she wanted to be hired on the staff, and he told her no, he wouldn't hire her, and that all of this is in text message. So if the woman gave Monique all these text messages, Monique needs to show all the text messages. And so he says that when they interviewed for the positions that I mentioned to you guys in my last video, he said that they interviewed 66 people, and one of those people was the Cariana Turner, I think is how you pronounce her name, and that she was the one, that got the job, and she's like the next generation, the young adult pastor. And so he says that on January 5th, that this lady texted him and said, I see you hired a young lady. I guess you're sleeping with her also. And so he let her know, no, he was not sleeping with her. And that, this lady, that these people that they hire, they're pastors, they have families, they have earned the right to be in this position. And basically, because you're so messy, that's why you're not getting a position. And so he says that the woman wrote her dissertation on Black women empowerment, and that, I guess she wanted him to read it and critique it, maybe give a foreword or something. And he told her no, because it didn't have any depth to it. It was poorly written and he couldn't put his name behind it. And so he says that the lady then, I guess to get retaliation, sent text messages to 27, I guess like periodicals, websites that cover church ministries and that type of thing, and to bloggers. And he says that 25 of these people that he sent it to dismissed it because it had no merit, there was no foundation, there was no basis. And I guess these people were reaching out to him saying, hey, this lady is sending us this information about you, like what's going on. And so he says that basically the lady was chasing clout. And so when she got rejected by, all these, I guess, legitimate sources, she then sent everything to the executive producers at Bravo, but none of them took the bait. So then she sent the information to all of the cast members except for Giselle. So it was no surprise when they were sitting there on that couch when Monique pulled out this information, because they had already seen it before, because this lady had tried to send it to all of them and Monique was the only one that took the bait. And so he goes on to say that the woman and her sister started a magazine, but the magazine had little substance and it was poorly edited, just like her dissertation. And so In this part, he was saying that the lady kept contacting him, wanting to interview him, wanting to talk to him, but he would never respond to her because he was afraid that whatever he said to her, that she would use it in this magazine. And so he just ignored her and didn't say anything else. And so he says that Monique was the only one that, took the bait and ran with this information that the lady had given him, and he said had given her. But he says that he has never met Monique before, has never shook her hand, has never, been in her presence before. And so for her to be this vindictive, to use this information in an attempt to hurt Giselle, basically just shows how, small-minded she is. And so he says that he's not sleeping with, dating, or have a baby with any woman in his church. Now, when you make statements like that, you make us wondering, okay, well, is it somebody not in the church who's not a member of the church? Because somebody said that the woman was in Baltimore and that she wanted to relocate to Atlanta from Baltimore. So is there a woman in his life other than Giselle? And it's none of our business, to be honest with you. And so he went on to say that the reason Monique is the one that's presenting the information is because I guess part of the setup was that Monique's best friend, if I'm understanding this correct, is someone named Gigi, and Gigi passed away. Now, do you guys know anything about Monique having a friend that passed away? I was a little confused because the first time I listened to the video, I thought he was saying that this woman, this mystery woman, had a friend named Gigi. But when I listened the second time, I think he's saying that it's Monique who had the friend named Gigi that passed away. And so he's saying that the reason all of this is taking place is because Monique was afraid that her last baby was by this trainer that Sharice knows, that, that story that's floating around. And so he was saying that Giselle didn't leak the story about the trainer, that it was actually this Gigi girl who leaked the story and started the rumor that it was that might be the trainer's baby, that the last baby that Monique had. And so then he went on to talk about Chris Samuels, Monique's husband. Now, this is where I kind of like stepped back and said, now, whoa, brother, you're doing too much. Because he says that Monique lives with a man that's full of rage, and that this is not conjecture. This is documented, factual information. Sunday will be the first time that he recommends that people watch Real Housewives of Potomac, that he wants us to watch this second episode that's coming up, because Chris tries to attack, like physically attack Giselle and Robin, and I guess security had to get involved, and that it was a big hot mess. So I don't know if, like, when he threw this party in, I'm thinking, okay, y'all still scamming us. Like, this is all still for the show, feels like. He said that Monique, is talking about she has his phone number, but he has her address, and that former teammates have called him and told him, like, don't get into it with Chris. Don't, just let this go. Don't, get too involved in this because Chris suffers from CTE. So just don't respond. And you guys know CTE is the brain trauma that a lot of NFL players get diagnosed with after their career from being hit so many times on the field. And so then he says that last week, Chris was actually in the Safeway somewhere in Potomac and got into an argument with a black woman and was like verbally assaulting this woman. And he says that there is footage of this. So this isn't, a rumor. This is something that really happened. And he says that he contacted their pastor, because, the pastor be on the show sometimes. And they contacted him and asked him to get involved and, to help Chris and to help Monique, because things are getting out of control. And so the reunion was just filmed, but the show itself was some time ago. And so he went on to say that, his past had made current stories believable. you know, and have people come on his page and have been attacking him on social media, on, you know, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and that, you know, it's just becoming too much. It's becoming overwhelming, and people think, oh, well, he did all these things in the past, so he has to be guilty now. And, you know, that was pretty much all he had to say, that he had to run. And, you know, he knows that we are wondering, like, why was this little message so short? You got that big old binder with all them papers in there, but you have gone over all those papers. And he says that he has to feed 8,000 people, and that, you know, nobody's going to talk about, you know, all the people, all the good that New Birth is doing in community and all the, you know, things that he is spearheading, but he has to feed 8,000 people. On Saturday, he says that, you know, he's got to go out and buy Christmas presents for children that are in foster care and for homeless families. And then once again, on January 5th, he's got to help get the Democrats elected in this Georgia Senate race. And so he says that he's not called to entertain, he is called to empower. And so he hopes that this has fed our need, you know, for his response to Monique. And this is all he has to say. And he said, you know, 'twas the night before Christmas. Like, what was the last line? To Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. And so, guys, that's it. What do you think? I did download the video. I don't know if it's going to be able to stay up, you know, because people be acting funny and doing stuff they ain't got no business doing. But Jamal said he wanted us to share the video, that, you know, the bloggers aren't going to write about any of the good things that he does, but he wants people to know that he's doing good in the community, and that they don't always have to believe the worst about him. So go ahead and leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.